Emails from Afar, a chef's culinary adventure around the world. By Mike Sanders.
Chapter 16 The Highlights of Hue. 1-1, Day 47. We spent much of the day resting on the balcony of our guest house. In the evening, the five of us wandered around the town a bit before finding a place for dinner. What waited inside for us was something I could not have imagined, even if I tried, and can only be described as the dinner of tragedy. Sarah, Dave, Elaine, Boo, and I found ourselves a great-looking Italian restaurant near our hotel this afternoon on our walk. As we opened the door, the cool air overwhelmed us with the comforting and familiar smells of Italian food. We had been talking about getting a pizza all day long, so the smell of the food sets our stomachs growling, our mouths watering, and our minds racing with possibilities. It was a complete and total Pavlovian response. Once in our seats, we started cruising the menu and making our final adjustments to our pies. The meal started when the waitress came over and got our drink orders to get us going. We all ordered a Coca-Cola. She nodded, went away, came back seconds later, and said it had been a very busy night and they were just out of Coke. Sorry. Could I get you anything else? No problem. 4 Sprites and an iced tea for Sarah will do just fine, thank you. She set off and came back with 3 bottles of Sprites and a glass of ice, which she sat in the middle of the table, then flashed off again. Moments later, she returned to the table and set 4 bottles of Coca-Cola and a glass of hot tea next to the Sprites. Not sure what to do, we all smiled at each other and took a Coke and a Sprite, and Sarah poured her hot tea over the ice and pocketed the Coke for later. Now, fully beveraged, she asked us if we were ready to order. Boy, howdy are we. We ordered 3 large pies, all of them thin crust, a number 1, a number 5 with extra cheese, and a number 7 with no anchovies. She said that they were very sorry and that they were just out of pizza-making items, as it had been a very busy night. Would we like anything else? Night? It's 6:30 in the evening and your restaurant only has 3 people in it. Quite crestfallen by her news, we all scrambled to make new decisions. Dave and Boo ordered the spaghetti bolognese, which is basically an Italian tomato meat sauce. Elaine ordered fettuccine alfredo. Sarah wanted a niçoise salad, and I ordered a chicken breast and eggplant sandwich. The waitress diligently scribbled it all down and then shuffled off to the kitchen. I watched her go through the swinging doors, and as they swung back, she emerged. She had been in the kitchen for exactly half a second. She came right up to the table and told me that they were all out of sandwich-making items, as it had been a very busy night. Would I like anything else? Right, okay, how about a plate of fettuccine like Elaine? Sure, she said and dashed off to the kitchen. 10 seconds later, she came back to the table with Sarah's salad and a plate of penne pasta with ham and peas, which she put down in front of Elaine. She then told Dave and Boo that they were out of bolognese sauce, as it had been a very busy night, and would they like to order anything else. 2 bloody hamburgers, then. Can you manage that one, lass? His thick Irish accent was now tinged with anger. With a nod and a smile, she went back to the kitchen and, as usual, came out 10 seconds later. This time she came over to me and put down a plate of pasta in cream. Not cream sauce, just cream, even still a little cool. I politely said no thank you, I would like the fettuccine alfredo I ordered, as would Elaine. You can take these back. The waitress looked a bit confused, but took the plate and apologized for the mistake. On the way past Elaine, she deftly took her plate of uneaten peas and ham. Just as before, she went through the swinging doors and came back out as they swung back. This time she came over and put down Dave and Boo's food, pasta with red sauce for Dave, and a glass of beer for Boo. Dave figured this was as close as he was going to get and just dug in. The waitress then went over to the 3-top and discussed something inaudible to us. Dave had taken 3 bites and was in the middle of the 4th when she came over and just took the plate away, leaving him holding the fork. I watched her go around the corner, give the plate a small shake to cover up the hole Dave had made, came back around the corner, and gave it to a guy at the 3-top. On the way back to the kitchen, she casually took Boo's beer away from him, which was half gone. 10 minutes later, she emerged from the kitchen doors with new plates of pasta. She zipped right over to the table and placed down a plate of bolognese in front of Dave, then quickly dashed back to the kitchen. Dave, taking no chances, started furiously shoveling the pasta into his mouth. My dad would have said he was going at it like he was killing snakes, hardly even taking time to breathe in between swallows. I guess Dave's logic was that the waitress was going to be taking the plate of food away at any second, so he needed to eat as much as possible. Unfortunately, Boo got naught of this round. Within minutes, the waitress came out of the kitchen with 2 plates of food. Elaine's old plate of penne pasta with ham and peas, and my old cream penne that had been heated and slightly thickened with something. I got the ham and peas, Elaine got my old reheated penne. With a quick dash to the kitchen, she came back with a plate and stood next to Dave. She looked a bit confused as Dave was face down in his noodles, half finished. Unaware that she was there, Dave slowly raised his face, sauce on his lips and eyes as big as saucers. In that instant, with a little pasta still hanging from his fork, she smiled at him and in one lightning-fast move, replaced the pasta with a ham sandwich. She put it down and said, "Okay, here your hamburger," and bolted off. Hamburger? Hamburger? When the hell did a ham sandwich start qualifying as a hamburger? Did they mean a ham burger? Looks like Dave's logic turned out to be correct. He had snarfed down quite a bit of the pasta before it got switched to the sandwich, so he gave half to Elaine and then handed me the other half. Finally, some food. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dave. By this time, Sarah had finished her salad long ago and decided to order a piece of tiramisu for dessert. Elaine and I had received each other's wrong food twice. David received 3 wrong plates of food, 2 of which had been taken away half-eaten, and Boo was still waiting for any kind of solid food to show up. As I inhaled my half of the sandwich, the waitress came out of the kitchen with a cheese sandwich and sat it down in front of Boo and Sarah's tiramisu, a bowl of whipped cream with 4 tiny rock-hard biscuits sticking out of it. As she sat it down in front of Elaine, she proceeded to tell me that they were out of whatever the hell I had ordered and would I like something else. "Of course you are," I said. "What would you suggest?" I thought this new tack on the situation might actually result in me getting some food. She then offered me something that I really didn't understand in her broken English, and I said that that would be fine as long as they physically had it in the kitchen. She ran back into the kitchen, and before she could return, Dave made a prediction that turned out to be correct. She came back with a half-eaten plate of bolognese. At that point, we busted out laughing at the silliness of it all. The waitress had a big smile on her face. She was clearly pleased to see that her guests were laughing and enjoying their meal. She asked if we needed anything else. Dessert, maybe? "Shit, no," we all said in unison. "Just the bill, please." The bill was screwed up as the rest of the meal. She had tried to charge us for every plate and glass that had hit the table, not what we had actually got or even ate. But with a little haggling, we got out of there with minimal financial damage. We hit the door laughing and crying at the same time. Elaine, Boo, and I were still hungry, and Sarah's salad had worn off, so we ate at the first cafe we came across. I had a bowl of pho. Nothing too exciting about that. What did make it exciting was that it had a prawn. One mammoth prawn. Its tail was as large as a spiny lobster tail. Honestly, I had a bit of a hard time trying to eat it, to be frank. The seafood in Southeast Asia is served with its head and tail still on. With a pair of chopsticks, it was more like wrestling a crustacean with an unfair advantage rather than eating. Frustrated, I ate everything else, then drank the rich seafood broth. Then, ultimately, I had to use my hands to get at the damn thing. It had to have weighed 7 ounces at least. Seriously, it was a thing of beauty. The flesh was sugar-sweet, snow-white, and surprisingly tender. It was a lot like a lobster. A lot. Once again, Boo had suggested that we try a particular place to eat that may be good, and, as usual, he was right. Before we left, I needed to use the bathroom. As I walked through to the back of the establishment, I had to physically step over a kid who was chopping vegetables on the floor, not less than 10 feet away from the squatty potty. Maybe Boo wasn't so right after all. Jesus, I hope we don't get violently sick after this. Happy New Year to me. Me. 1-3, day 49. I thought I'd write a little bit about what we have seen and done lately. Our time here in Hue is coming to an end soon, and we are headed to the south coastal town of Hoi An. Yesterday, we went to the Forbidden Purple City. It's an exact replica of the Forbidden City in China on a much smaller scale. We walked for close to 3 hours around the vast complex of temples, palaces, and gardens. Unfortunately, most of what made up the Purple City has been lost to wars and looting. Still, it was neat to walk around a place that 100 years ago I would have been forbidden to be in, and 50 or so years ago was the site of a significant battle during the Tet Offensive. We started today with a walk to the Hue Market. We crossed over the Perfume River on the famous, or infamous, bridge that was bombed constantly by the U.S. Air Force and rebuilt by the Viet Cong every time. The bridge that now stands is basically the same bridge from that era. Huge steel plates had been welded over all of the battle wounds, fractures, and stress points. Age, war, heavy use, and the tropical weather have all taken its toll on this very large bridge over a very large river. The Perfume River isn't very long in miles, but it carries a huge amount of rain out of the Annamese Mountains down across the short coastal plain to the Gulf of Tonkin. It's nearly the end of the dry season now, so the river is at its lowest point, and it's still huge. The Vietnamese have a saying, Vietnam has 3 rivers of life. The Red River in the north that runs through Hanoi, the Mekong in the south that flows through Saigon, and the Perfume River in the middle of the country that runs through Hue. Water is everything in Vietnam. It's vital for growing rice, for fishing, for transport, everything. We were concerned that we wouldn't be able to find the market, but by the time we had reached mid-span on the bridge, we couldn't see anything but the market on the left side of the bank. A vast sea of blue plastic tarps stretched down as far as the eye could see. It was a sight to behold. We found the stairs down to the market at the end of the bridge. We took one quick glance around from the top of the stairs and plunged in. The place was vast. As we came down the stairs, we were met by what can only be described as organized and utter chaos. Zigzagging our way back and forth for 2 hours, we never saw the same stall twice. The lanes between the stalls were packed with people coming and going, bicycles loaded with boxes 10 feet high, cages of all manner of animals, and loose newspapers. The sight of an old woman in traditional black dress carrying 10 white ducks by their necks, or a young man with a pig bound in chicken wire and strapped to the back of a moped would occasionally punctuate the chaotic scene. Sporadically, we would stop and talk to a random vendor, sampling some of the safe-looking foods as we went, mainly the fresh fruit and roasted nuts. My favorite were the jungle bananas, or monkey bananas, as I have heard them frequently called here. Just like in Thailand, the bananas are quite flavorful and far meatier than their South American cousins. One interesting thing that we found was the toasted watermelon seed stand. Here in Vietnam, they treat watermelon seeds just like sunflower seeds by soaking them in brine and then toasting them at a low temperature for a few hours until lightly brown. Slightly nutty, they tasted vaguely of strawberries to me. Some get stained red before roasting, which is something like dyeing a pistachio, I suspect, done for effect but not for flavor. Each stall was a complete disaster area with merchandise packed to the ceiling. Stall after stall of stuff on tables or in big piles. Some of the stalls had stuff hanging from poles, some had wires strung through them like clotheslines, but all of them had one thing in common. Every square inch was overloaded with various objects. The visual chaos was overwhelming, and my eyes began to become numb to what they were seeing. In order to give the market some kind of semblance of organization, it had been divided into areas or zones. Some of the more interesting zones that we passed through included the pile of a million mismatched shoes, Hatland, Cameraland, the Animal Guts Courtyard, Dried Chili Land, Piles of Spices, Sacks and Sacks of Beans, Meat Street, the Realm of the Green Coconut, the Kingdom of Cloth, Pharmacy Country, Bucket Country, the Hot Tea and Soup Division, the Silk Flower Shop, the Plastic Flower Shop, the Smelly Domain of the Cabbage, Birds in Cages, Veggie Heaven, Cigarette City, Boxes and Boxes of Boxes, the Toasted Watermelon Seed Factory, the Place They Keep the Enormous Basket of Eggs, Lizard Head, Toilet Love, the Underwear Pavilion, the Parts of the Fish You'd Normally Throw Away area, the Feather Drying Courtyard, the Squid Drying Courtyard, the Cheap Watch Hut, Sugarcane Alley, the place I like to call Territory of Nasty Edibles, the Knife Guy, the place with the gargantuan pile of hair on the ground, the Bamboo Brothers, Great Melons Galore, and Things That Are Still Squirming in a Bucket. Safeway it ain't.